I'm going to delete this. I don't need to see that. All right. I'm live! Yay! I'm live. Okay, so, hey, pussies! Welcome to the 4th episode of Positive Pussy Live. I am Positive Pussy, and I am joined by my very first guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Lizzie.
So Lizzie is my special friend, and we'll talk more about that later. It's on topic, so don't worry. So welcome, Lizzie. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so happy I'm here too.
Welcome to all the people on YouTube. There's no one yet, so that's good. So this is my first episode on YouTube Live, which is cool because I was previously doing my episodes on Facebook Live and it wasn't really working out. This way I'm going to reach more people. I think it's a better format and it's still live, so you guys can still ask questions and make comments and we'll respond at the end. And today I have Lizzie here to help me if there are any. Most of the time there's not, but we'll see.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, so where was I? Oh, yeah. So if you wanted to watch my previous episodes, there's grapes, sorry. You guys can watch them here on my website, positivepussy.live. I just redesigned it, and I think it looks really good.
It does.
I really like it. The logo is designed by my friend Katie. She did a really good job. And I have my email on there, so if you ever wanted to email me privately, there's a contact form. I have a link to my Twitter, which is at Positive Puss. Positive Pussy was taken. Can you believe it?
Stupid.
I know, but at Positive Puss.
Works too.
And so you can find the link on my website. And, I also post descriptions of the videos, which include resources. So if I mention a book, a product, or a website, you guys can find the link to that in the description on the website. So yes, and the last thing is subscribe to this YouTube channel. So now that I'm on YouTube Live, subscribe. I have 4 subscribers now. I feel good about it. Yeah. So yeah, thank you to everyone who will end up watching eventually, because I know people can watch it afterwards. So I'm talking to those people now. Anyway. So we'll just get right into the topic. So the topic today is relationship styles.
Yeah.
It's going to be super general, unfortunately. I did title this episode Part 1. So I'm going to do another episode where I just go a little bit more in depth and I talk about some other stuff like jealousy and compersion. And I'll be talking about polyamory and like hierarchy and stuff like that. So if you guys have ever been to the website More Than Two, it's super intense. Have you ever been to that website?
No, I have not actually.
Okay, it's super intense. There's so much information. It's super hard to like get through it all, and for someone who is poly, it's a lot. So I'll be like reading it, condensing some of it, and bringing the best parts in an informational video one day. So this is going to be general. So what kind of relationship styles do you think there are? Or which ones do you know of?
Monogamy, which is the one that most people know about, I guess. Polyamory. We talked about like polyfamily kind of too as part of that. Monogamish, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes.
You obviously know more than I do.
I think you actually got most of them except for relationship anarchy, which I mean, it's hard to define. So I like to think of it as a spectrum. So on one side of the spectrum would be like the more monogamous, and then on the other side is the less monogamous. Do you like my spectrum?
Yes.
So on the very, very far monogamous side of the spectrum is classical monogamy. So that's one person forever. So it's
fun.
Yeah, it's not very common with humans actually, because it's like you meet one person, you fall in love, and that's the only person forever until you die.
Happen.
Well, I mean, some people like marry their high school sweethearts and then they're with them for their whole lives, and then one partner dies and then they don't ever get another partner. So that's classical monogamy. That's an example. I like to think of it as like the penguins, because they meet their one penguin partner and then they stay with that penguin partner, and then when one penguin dies, they're too old to get another penguin partner, so they just stay. Yeah, classical monogamy.
Penguins.
Serial monogamy is the next one. Those are the two kinds of monogamy, and I think most people are serial monogamous. They just don't that's like more like a joke. To,
yeah,
like,
I think so.
I always hear it as like a punchline. But serial monogamy is like one person at a time. So if you ever had a boyfriend and you guys broke up and then you got another boyfriend, that's serial monogamy. Yeah. So those are the two types of monogamy. And then from there, we get to consensual non-monogamy. So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's non-monogamy, but it's consensual. So the people know about it, they talk about it, and it's agreed upon.
Yeah.
So the first one is monogamish. And that one, it doesn't technically mean that you have sex with other people. It's whatever you set up in your relationship as the rules. So monogamish couples can be like couples who are just able to flirt with other people. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as like, okay, you can have a girlfriend that you flirt with and talk to and hang out with, but no kissing, no touching, no other stuff, and definitely no falling in love with that kind of thing. But that can go from, just kissing or just friendship and flirting to all the way to like swingers. That counts as monogamish because you're in a group, you're in a couple, and you just swap. Swingers just swap partners, and usually they're in the room, but doesn't always have to be that. You make whatever rules you are. Yeah. So monogamish is two people with their own rules about the relationship, about like what they can do with others. Yeah. Okay, so the next one is polyamory. So, or I guess the next one after monogamish would be polyfidelity, which if you've ever heard of the term throuple, that's what that is.
A throuple.
A throuple. 3 people. We need a third hand.
Sorry.
So a throuple, so 3 people in a relationship. So polyfidelity is any more than 2. So it could be 4, which would be a quad. I think it has a term.
Is it?
I don't know because I'm not in that, so I'm not really sure. But there is a term for people. So if you can imagine, like 2 guys who are bisexual, 2 girls who are bisexual, and they all are in a foursome relationship together. It doesn't have to be that setup, but that's kind of like what I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah.
And or 4 girls. I mean, big party. Yeah. So
positive pussies.
Yeah, but they're in a relationship. So it's not just like, they're in a relationship. That's the polyfidelity. So thruples and foursomes, anything more than 2, where everybody has a relationship with each other, which is different from polyamory, which is the next one. Because in polyamory, that's people in the relationship are allowed to have relationships outside of the relationship. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm a little bit confused about us, and we'll talk about it later. But so polyamory is you're allowed to fall in love and also have a sexual relationship with somebody outside of the relationship. So everyone in polyamorous relationships have their own rules. So there could be hierarchical polyamorous relationships where you have a primary partner and then you have secondary partners, or you can do it equal among partners. So like you don't have a primary, it's like you have 2 partners and those are both your main. You split your attention evenly or however you do it. So polyamory is, there doesn't technically have to be like a relationship between one partner's partner and that other person's partner. It's pretty complicated. So if her and I were in a polyamorous relationship together, she doesn't technically have to have a relationship with anybody else that I have a relationship with. Yeah. That would be polyfidelity if she did. Which that's why I'm thinking more of that part. Okay, so the last one is polyanarchy, and so that one is just you're free to engage in any relationship that you choose. It's really hard to define because it's kind of like polyamory as long as your other partner agrees, but it's also more just like you don't get into a relationship in the first place, So relationship anarchy is more like a lack of relationship, but it's really hard to define. But yeah, you're free to engage. You don't really set up rules with your partners, and it's more like that free spirit kind of one. I'll do a more in-depth talk about relationship anarchy on part 2, but just
there's a
what
spectrum.
it is right now. Yes, there's a spectrum. So overall, from classical monogamy all the way to relationship anarchy, those and everything in between, those are what they are. So it looks like there's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6, but there's probably more, honestly. Like, these are just like the main ones. Whatever your relationship setup is, that's what you have, and you don't have to define it, obviously.
We can't define it.
I mean,
don't know.
Yeah, we are clearly having trouble. So whatever relationship you're in, that's your relationship style. And it doesn't matter what it is or how you define it. Like, it's what it is. And relationship style is different from relationship orientation. So relationship orientation is what you can think of it like a sexual orientation. So if you have a monogamous relationship orientation, that means you engage in monogamous relationships, and that's what you prefer and are happiest in. Mm-hmm. If you are a monogamous orientation and you're in a polyamorous relationship, I mean, it's possible, but that's why they're not the same. The relationship style is polyamorous, but the person's orientation is monogamous. And those things can work. It just takes a lot more time and effort, and it's harder. And it sometimes doesn't work. But sometimes people can be, just like people can be bisexual, people are able to be monogamous and polyamorous and to have no problem switching between the two.
Yeah.
So just remember, relationship style and orientation are not the same thing, but it's important if you have a certain relationship orientation to know that about yourself, so that if you find yourself in another type of relationship that's different from your orientation, you can kind of put more work into that to make that relationship work if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yes. So how do you know, or what do you think that we are? So I guess we can talk about our relationship now. Yeah. It's complicated. So
very complicated.
We have a relationship that is, it goes all on all levels. And we also have a relationship with the same partner who is a cisgendered male bodied human being. Yes. And we both love him, and we didn't always have a relationship, but now that we do,
it's so much better.
It's so much better, and we're very happy. Yeah. And so to describe it, I guess we have, we don't really have any main partners, but I don't know. I guess we would be a throuple. We do polyfidelity, I think, right now. Yeah. But the only reason why I'm confused is because our other partner, he has relationships with other people that aren't us. Mm-hmm. And we could also, if we wanted to, we haven't yet, but if we wanted to, we could have relationships with other people. I've had a different male partner before, but that's over now. Mm-hmm. But like, if we wanted to have a threesome or something, we could. Without him, we could, and that would be fun. But so I guess it's kind of polyamory because there is one main throuple, and we just are allowed to do. So it's polyamory. Yeah. It just has like an interesting structure, which is, I mean, that's fine. Yeah. That's just what it is, you know.
And I don't know.
It doesn't matter what it's defined as. Yeah. It doesn't, but it's just good to know. It is what it is. Yeah. So, I would describe it as polyamory just because of that other aspect. If we were not allowed to, like, if it was just us three and we weren't, like, with other people ever, like,
I guess.
We're about to be a throuple for a while because our partner is actually coming to town. Yay. We're so happy. He's going to be here for a while. So, soon. Like, really soon. Really soon. Oh, yeah. Let's see how long we've been talking. 15 minutes. Only 15 minutes. Not too bad. Okay. So, so we'll talk about how you can kind of know if you're poly right now. So how did I know? I don't really know. There's no way to know if you're poly. There's no like test you can take. There's no like quiz. It's like, you might be poly if like, I mean, that sounds like a joke actually.
But it's a spectrum. I don't know. You
have to figure out like where you are. But if you're thinking that you're poly, then you might have thoughts kind of like I did. So how I knew was I thought about that phrase, once a cheater, always a cheater. Mm-hmm. And that phrase always haunted me because there have been boyfriends in the past that I had cheated on, and I felt guilty about it and I didn't feel good about it. But at the same time, I didn't feel like, I felt like if I could tell my partner about it, like if he could just know that I wasn't not in love with him, that I was just lonely in college, so if I could just explain to him, that I still loved him, but there was just other desires that I didn't want to ignore. And I just felt like I was a slut. I felt like I'm just like, once a cheater, always a cheater. I'm never going to change. And then I just decided like, well, I'm not going to get into a relationship if I just decided no relationships. So when I met our partner, the first thing I told him was like, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. And I just want to be whatever, hookup buddies, which is all I had at the time. Like I just had a string after I like cheated on my boyfriend in freshman year. I didn't have a boyfriend for a while, and I just had like short-lived fuck buddies, and I was always fucking different people. And yes, I did feel kind of slutty because I mean that's what you're told to feel when you're doing that. And so I challenged my inner heteronormativity, which that's a fancy phrase. I looked it up. Okay. So heteronormativity is just the cultural pressure to be heterosexual in a monogamous relationship. And I did definitely feel that pressure to be in a heterosexual monogamous relationship. And I felt like I didn't function well in that kind of relationship. And I felt like I wasn't like able to do it. And I didn't want to hurt my partners. So I just didn't have partners. I just had sexual relationships with people. And I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of the people that I had sex with because of that. And because like there wasn't a partnership, it was more like just sexual and friends. Yeah. So there wasn't a sad breakup or anything that really split us apart, which I really liked. And I was like, I want to be friends with the people I have sex with. But I didn't really realize until I met our partner that I could do that. Yeah. So most of the guys that I would have sex with would be appalled to find out that I had sex with other people, or that I didn't want to be in a relationship with them. And they, when I told our partner that I didn't want to be in a relationship because I felt like relationships are too stifling because you can't have sex with other people, he was like, well, I totally agree. And why can't we be in a relationship and have sex with other people? And I was like, oh yeah, why can't we? That's a thing, right? So, so I challenged that pressure, and I was like, why can't we just make the relationship what we want? And so heteronormativity is homophobic, it's sex negative, and the cultural lens that we see things through really does affect how we feel. So yeah, I mean, you could talk about how you kind of got into this sort of relationship.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I met our partner through work.
It's weird that we're just saying our partner.
No. Anyways.
We eat a grape. I hope that's okay.
It's totally fine. But yeah, I met him through work, and we were really good friends. And I don't know, I had feelings for him, and I guess, I mean, he had feelings for me.
Yeah, he told me.
We're here now, so obviously something was up. But yeah, and I don't know. I didn't really understand the concept. I don't know. I'd never really wanted a normal relationship. I've never kind of been that way. And I don't know, a lot of my friends are really into like the marriage and kids thing, and that's totally fine. And I've never seen myself that way. And all of my friends know that very well. I've made that very clear that I'm going to be the cool aunt, not the mom. I'm just going to spoil their kids, but not be a part of it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I never really, I guess at that point, I had never really explored different styles of relationships, and so I didn't really understand. So it took us a long time to get to where we are.
Well, when Daniel first approached you, I mean, because I don't really know exactly how he was like, so let's have a thing going, and you were like, well, but you have a girlfriend.
And and it was just,
he was like, but it's okay.
There was not a lot of communication, but I don't know. It wasn't that I was opposed to the idea. I just didn't really understand a lot about it. And I didn't really see myself in that situation because I didn't know a lot about it. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of, yeah. But when we kind of decided to enter this relationship, I did not have a relationship with you. And we didn't.
No. It was still polyamory, but
we were not friends.
No.
And that, I mean, I don't know. I'm happy that we are.
I think that sometimes it is a little bit hard. And so like there are good ways and bad ways to start a polyamorous relationship. And that's actually the next thing I'm going to talk about is how to kind of start that with your partner. But the first thing is to just be fucking honest and open, like Jesus Christ, talk.
And communicate.
Yes, because that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So all relationships have problems, but when you become more than just two people, it becomes so much more complex.
Like tenfold.
Yeah, so talking about your feelings and like, you know, being honest about how you feel and like why you feel the way that you do. Like the specific things that make you feel that way changes everything. It's super helpful. Like, I don't know why it's the simplest thing, but it's really hard for people to do. And when you're talking about your feelings or like things that make you feel a certain way, don't blame your partner for that, but just say like, these actions are causing me to feel this way. It's not you that's making me feel this way. It's when you do this, you know?
Yeah.
So just be specific. And, so if you feel like you want to explore some more polyamorous relationships, then start with that honest conversation about like who you are or what you want and do research. So do research with your partner after you have the conversation.
Yeah.
Don't think about it and then like do a bunch of research by yourself. And if your partner finds out you've been doing a lot of research about polyamory behind your back, that might hurt them a little bit. Especially if they had no idea that you were feeling that way. So like we said, communication.
We need to make a sign.
Yeah, communication. That's what my next sign's going to be. It's going to be the speech bubble. I have a speech bubble one.
Yes, okay.
So definitely have that open and honest conversation and then talk, but also do research with your partner. So look up books. There's a really good one called More Than Two. I mentioned their website. Their website is super informative. So if you can't afford the book, go on the website. It's really, really good. And it has resources for monogamous people as well. So like monogamous people, like frequently asked questions from monogamous people. There's like, if you fall in love with someone who's poly, but you're monogamous, there's like resources on that. So it's really, really good. Yeah. But there's so much on there, but they organize it super well. So it's nice. So do research with your partner and figure out like what kind of style works for you. So my advice is to, I forgot. There's other resources. There's a book called Ethical Slut. That's
I'm reading
really
it
good
right now.
Yeah. I hear it's good. And then there's a book called Opening Up, which I hear is a little bit better than More Than Two. Like, no offense to More Than Two, but they were just like, it's a little bit older. And it's more about like when it was first starting out. So I think Opening Up is more recent, and I think it's a little bit more, it caters to people who aren't just polyamorous, who are monogamish as well. So if you're just starting in that kind of thing, then Opening Up is a better book for you. Figure out what kind of style you guys want and start slow. So if you are going to be like, one day I would love to be in a polyamorous relationship, do not start just being poly. We did this wrong, but
very wrong.
And
it's okay.
I'm not saying like I'm not forbidding it, but it's not as good of an idea. My advice is to start super, super slow with like baby steps. So like start with the lesser form of monogamish, like just flirting with people. And like, not to say that it can't work, because here we are, clearly it does, but it's going to be a lot harder if you...
It's a lot easier when you're like, I don't know.
When slow. And we did kind of do some stuff slower. Like you guys weren't like together right away. And I mean, you kind of like worked your way in a little bit slowly.
And we worked our way into it. Like, I don't know.
It took us a little bit of time. And if your partner needs time to like with every single baby step, if something comes up and your partner feels insecure or like not as loved or something's wrong, definitely talk about that at that step.
Don't wait.
I'm like yelling at people, don't do this, but like it's not a good idea to go to another step or to open things up even more if for the step before that you guys had some, things that you didn't work out.
Yeah.
So do all of those things. And if you do find yourself in a relationship that you absolutely love and it's not conventional, like if you are like a swinger or whatever the case is, like you're in a polyamorous relationship, polyfidelity, it's really, really helpful to find a community. And we are working on that right now, actually. But finding a community is super, super helpful because once you're in full swing of that relationship, you're going to have problems. Every relationship has problems, and monogamous, polyamorous, it doesn't matter.
No matter what it is.
There's going to be times where you're going to want to talk to somebody who isn't in the relationship, who you need like some unbiased opinion from. And right now we don't really have that, but
we talk to each other.
We're working on it. We're reaching out to other polyamorous communities and couples and trying to find a community to help foster our relationship that we love. It's really, really hard to go to a monogamous person if you're polyamorous and talk about your relationship without getting the same, like, well, I mean, you're a poly, so what did you think was going to happen? Or
I have experience with that.
Yeah. Or like going to a monogamous person and they just don't really understand the complexity of it. So that's why finding a community is really, really helpful. And I think it's important.
It is important, but also like, I don't know, like from my personal experience, I was not really comfortable telling people about in the beginning.
I still don't tell a lot of people. So,
and it's difficult to talk about because, again, like it's not something that's generally accepted in our society yet.
Which we should change. There's no shame in the kind of relationship you have because we're fucking happy as shit. So
but it's just, don't be afraid to talk to, even if they are monogamous, like don't be afraid to kind of talk about it, I guess, because it's important to like not only to make yourself feel comfortable, to make your partners feel comfortable and the people around you feel comfortable. Like I told my best friends and I was really scared to tell them because I thought that I don't know, I really don't know what I was thinking, but they're totally accepting and they're totally fine.
It was really cool.
Yeah, and it's totally great and they love her.
And like, now I've met them.
And it's great. So
now I have friends. It's cool. So definitely find a community or at least find people you can talk to who can really help you with like working out your feelings and communicate. That's the most important thing.
The imaginary side.
Yes, my imaginary side. So if you don't have a partner and you're thinking about becoming poly or something, then my advice is to do your own research and then find a community, places where you can meet other poly people, because it's really hard if you're polyamorous to date people who are monogamous. I just recently had some heartbreak trying to do that, and it's hard. So definitely, if you are poly and you don't have a partner, find a community, find other poly people, and find yourself a mate or not, whatever you want. Yeah. So I think I'll end this episode by saying there's a lot more I wish I could talk about. So like jealousy and compersion, and I want to talk about like more in depth of like hierarchical systems and more about like what it like the nitty gritty of being polyamorous and everything. And there's so much you could talk about because obviously you could fill books with it. And I will on part 2. And hopefully Lizzie will be back, and hopefully we'll even have a third person here. We'll have our whole throuple on. It'll be really weird.
Yeah. He'll be uncomfortable.
Yeah, he totally will. It's fine. So my wish is that this opened up your mind a little bit to other relationships and hopefully challenges heteronormativity just a little bit more. And I just ask that you guys think about the cultural lens you're looking through and kind of like see that there's other relationships out there. And if you're in a monogamous relationship and you're unhappy, there's so many. I don't even want to get into that right now, but definitely keep an open mind and yeah, so I'll see you pussies next time.
Yay.
Goodbye for meow.
Bye.
I gotta end the stream.
Oh.